was trying to match your face. All right, thank you for
I got a
listening.
match for your face, my
Son
butt.
of a bitch, I was starting the intro to the episode.
That's the intro. We did it.
Mother... I'm just kidding. Thanks for listening to another episode of Remake Rewind. Normally, we talk about a movie and its remake, or its reboot, talk about it, compare, contrast, and but every once in a while we like to do a topic episode where we kind of break the mold and just, do something a little bit different, and that's what we're going to do this week.
We're
Mike,
mold breakers.
as always, with me. I've got my buddy Alex. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Just breaking molds, taking names.
Breaking molds, taking names. Kicking names, taking asses.
Kicking molds, doing crimes.
Yeah. But what we're going to do, this was actually your idea. I liked it. It's a great idea. That's why I signed on for it, signed off on it.
The type of ideas that I have.
Yeah, but what are we going to be doing this week? What are we going to be talking about? What's this week's topic episode?
This week, we're talking about the MCU, and specifically X-Men, Blade, and Fantastic Four. What we're excited about, what we think might happen, who might play who, how things tie into other things. And I feel like you can't really bring up the future of the MCU without trying to tie all of the movies together in some way. But we're going to try really hard to only talk about those three.
Yeah, and we also just wanted to get our opinions on the record, especially when we did like WandaVision, between our bonus episodes and stuff, we were kind of like all over the place talking about those. So we thought it would be a great time to kind of get our predictions out there, and then we can easily go back to see where we were right or wrong. Because we've talked about our predictions on other stuff, like when we did Spider-Man not too long ago. But we brought it up so many different episodes, it was hard to pinpoint where we actually talked about our predictions. So this is the episode where we can go back and be like, yes, we were right, or no, we were wrong.
Now, in doing a little bit of research for this, I realized that we're probably going to have to do another episode or two like this, doing predictions for the movies that are coming out sooner. Because these movies that we're going to talk about are not coming out for a year and a half.
Yeah, I think this one's a good one to do a little far out because, some of this stuff will likely come up in earlier movies. Like, I'm sure some of this stuff will be alluded to in the Doctor Strange movie, which is only like 2 months out and whatnot. So I think this one's good.
Yeah.
And I think this is where it's going to be a little weirder is these particular movies. So I would like to start with X-Men, but because this was your topic, I'll let you decide which one you want to start with.
Let's start with X-Men. I like it.
All right. So X-Men, obviously, of the three that we're bringing up, is probably the most famous franchise, the famous series. Had a bunch of movies, kind of was soft rebooted, with the with Hugh Jackman being along for the ride in all of them. So, that's pretty great. But that franchise spanned like 16 years and kept going. So that's the one that most of our listeners and most people are probably the most familiar with and is on the zeitgeist.
I think monetarily, Spider-Man is the biggest franchise before the MCUification, but X-Men definitely has the most movies and is almost as recognizable as Spider-Man.
And X-Men came out a few years before Spider-Man, so it's really like the three movies that kind of cemented the superhero movies as a viable option were Blade, the X-Men, and Spider-Man. It was those three movies. Blade actually was the first one. X-Men kind of cemented it, and Spider-Man showed not only can these be viable, but it can also break a fuck ton of records.
Yeah.
So, but X-Men, it's the one out of the three that we're going to be talking about that excites me the most because, we've seen so much of it, and I really want to see how the MCU can do different. And I was honestly surprised that we didn't get some X-Men stuff in Eternals. Just to go throw a little comic book nerd action at you. The Eternals were in the comic books, in the last decade or so, they've kind of retconned where the X gene, which causes the mutations, came from. But it's supposed to be the Celestials go to different planets. They do different kind of manipulations to see what's going to happen. So the Eternals are like the good guys, and then the ones that have the deviant gene become the deviants. Thanos is actually a deviant Eternal.
That's right.
But the experiments that happened on Earth created the X gene, and then thousands of years later, the mutant gene actually opened up and activated, and then we started getting all the mutants. There were people that had the gene activated earlier, and that's how you were able to get, like Wolverine and Apocalypse and whatnot earlier. but I was surprised that that wasn't touched on at all. I thought for sure that's why we did the Eternals, is because they're very niche even in the comic book community. Like most comic book people
Yeah.
didn't know about them, so I was really surprised. But I'll let you say your piece because I've got a few theories, but I want to hear what you have to say because I've just been talking for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't have any like prepared pieces here, so I'm happy to do this as more of a back and forth conversation. I don't have any monologues, but I will say, with the, with Spider-Man reaching out into the multiverse and sort of providing a back door to get some of these Fox characters that Marvel didn't have access to earlier on back into the MCU proper. I think there's a few ways that the X-Men could have reappeared, right? And having the Eternals come out and seeing that they haven't sort of been there all along, or at least not in any meaningful way, I think kind of closes one of those doors, unless they're going to do the same thing that they did with the Eternals, which is like, oh, they're even more in the background and now they're revealing themselves, which I think would be fucking boring.
I agree. So yeah, there's the multiverse.
Oh, sorry. Let me make one more point. I think it would be equally as boring for the X-Men to just kind of come in from another universe, like the other Spider-Men.
I agree, and I don't want that because as great as Hugh Jackman was, like he can't be Wolverine for another 20 years.
Right, and it could even be they could be recast. They could be from another universe that we haven't seen yet.
Right,
but that still seems really lazy to me.
Some of the other theories that came about was that Wanda during WandaVision was going to do like a reverse of House of M, where she said no more mutants and say bring the mutants, and all mutants would just arise. Some people thought that because Monica Rambeau got powers in WandaVision, they thought, maybe her extending the bubble. And we talked about that during WandaVision, that, maybe the bubble was going to be the catalyst.
Yeah, and I think Kevin Feige sort of hinted that that might still be a thing. That Monica Rambeau might be a ramp up to having the mutants in the MCU. He's, very vague, but I feel like that door is still open.
So one of the things that I would like, this would be what I would like to see, because I think it would be interesting to not have the X-Men already established, but kind of have mutants be this new forefront of this like new just fear that regular people have, and having this just be a new phenomenon that all these superpowered people, because if you look at the MCU, really, humans that have superpowers are still pretty rare. You've got Spider-Man, you've got Captain Marvel, you've got Hulk and Monica Rambeau, and that's it. Those are the only humans with actual superpowers that we've established. So what I think would be interesting, and some people might not like this because it kind of like retroactively makes these characters mutants, but what I think would be interesting if it goes, the X gene is there and it's been there for a long time, but it needed a ton of energy to activate. And so a combination of, all the Thanos snaps and whatnot, and the WandaVision has released enough energy that mutation happens on a large scale. But it can be explained why these four, the Hulk had the gamma radiation, so that was a huge burst of radiation, so it activated his mutant gene, and that the Hulk is actually a mutation. Same thing. Captain Marvel had the Tesseract engine blew up and gave her powers, and Spider-Man was bitten by a radioactive spider. So huge amounts of energy caused a mutation.
Right. Yeah.
I think that could be an interesting way to do it and explain, these people have always been around, but their powers haven't activated. Now that all the humans have been just exposed to so much cosmic energy over the last 5 years, now you get to the classic story of, they're going through puberty, or they're getting, in a huge moment of crisis and the adrenaline activates their power or something.
Yeah.
I think that could be a way to do it, and the mutants are a new phenomenon.
Well, I have a couple thoughts about that. We talked about WandaVision, just whatever she's doing being a catalyst for mutants, and obviously that didn't happen. But I think it's just as reasonable that whatever happens in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness releases some, I'm waving my hands wildly, releases some amount of radiation or energy that is enough to activate the X gene in people across the world. Yeah. So I think that same thing could happen. It just happens in Doctor Strange.
Yeah. So I think that would be interesting, is that the X gene exists and we just haven't got to it yet.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what's happened. I think the X gene is out there and they're going to find a way to activate it. We can still keep on talking about X-Men, but that's sort of similar to what happens to Fantastic Four, right? They get hit with a blast of cosmic energy or
Correct.
radiation.
What I would
So I don't
like
know if those. I don't know if it makes sense to tie those two events
no,
together.
and
Though.
I don't think so. And I've got some theories for Fantastic Four. X-Men, I do think we need to address a few things. Like, are we going to start with Xavier? Like, maybe Xavier was somebody who experienced his powers earlier and maybe has been in hiding. And then he starts a school when everything starts going crazy and there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of mutants just randomly popping up all over the place. But I personally would like late teens, early 20s mutants and having like kind of like First Class and having like the X-Men really start.
I want that element of First Class. I think I wouldn't mind skipping to Charles Xavier being 35 and maybe already in the wheelchair.
Yeah, I think that's fine, but I think, Xavier could have had his powers for a little while.
Sure.
For whatever reason.
I'm just talking about like, when we're thinking about casting and stuff. Like
The
I don't really want another McAvoy,
No.
As much as I like him.
I want a whole new cast. I don't want to bring any of the existing actors in.
Right, but I'm talking about like age. Like I don't want someone that's young and can walk. Like I think I'm more interested in Charles Xavier.
You can explore that in backstory, flashbacks, whatever. But yeah,
Sure.
I think he should start the school already in his wheelchair. Now, what I would think would be interesting is one of the issues with comic books is like it's getting to the point where it's not believable to have Magneto as a Holocaust survivor.
This is where I wanted to go next.
I think it would be interesting, and a lot of people have talked about this over the years, changing it to maybe he was a survivor of apartheid or the civil rights movement.
And make him black.
Yes, change it. Yeah, because I think that's something that's far enough back that you can have, him and Xavier. Because the thing that they've always been compared to is one is Malcolm X and one is MLK. Sure. So maybe make that more obvious because that's still, if they were kids or even teenagers during the 60s, that would put them in their 40s. You can have them a little bit older, 40s or 50s, have them older than the mutants that they're mentoring, but still have them around for 10, 15 years as they get older.
Yeah, this is the big thing that I keep on running into when I'm thinking about where an X-Men movie could go is that I feel like Magneto needs to be a Jewish man who survived the Holocaust. And, like you said, doesn't work out. I hadn't thought about casting him as a black man and making him a bit younger.
So
I like that. That's interesting.
But I do think no matter what it is, because it was supposed to be, the X-Men were supposed to be like a gay allegory.
Right.
I think it still needs to be an allegory for a group of people who have been discriminated against.
I think you'd have to try really hard to make it not, and also I think Marvel knows exactly what they're doing.
So that's what I think. I think that's the best way to update it. Punisher went from World War II, from Vietnam to the Gulf Wars. So I think that would be the natural jumping off point. Would be the civil rights movement. If you want to make them younger, then maybe South African apartheid, something like that. It could be any other marginalized group, but I think you have to stick it to a marginalized group.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I think it's going to be really hard to make him not Jewish, though, still.
Yeah, make them mixed race and have them still be Jewish or something. I don't know.
Do you think there's a world where Magneto emerges from some time portal and he is literally from the Holocaust, or maybe he just ages differently?
So that's one of the things that people have talked about. Oh, the mutants age differently, but then I think that's kind of a cop out just to give every mutant the ability to age a little bit different, and that takes away from Wolverine. So I don't want that age thing, and I also don't want everything going forward to be time travel or multiverse.
Is there a way that you can base Magneto aging differently in his power? Like, is there a metal power that can keep you young because you have more iron in your blood or something?
I don't know. Maybe. Like, I trust Kevin Feige and the crew to sort that out. But I think maybe, I don't want to spend too long on just the one. But fan casting, most of the X-Men I don't really have. What I would like to see is a small team. The original team. I want to see Iceman. I want to see Beast. I want to see Cyclops. I want to see Jean Grey. And then down the line, start adding more characters. Start adding your Colossus, your Storm. Have Wolverine come down the line. I don't necessarily want to see Wolverine movie 1.
Yeah, I agree. I in the movie, I'd like to see, you know, I'm happy to be wrong if they've got a better idea, but I think I'd like to see Charles Xavier setting up the school, and we get sort of, a first class, not the same movie as First Class, but we get the first class of the School for Gifted Children, and some of these characters that you mentioned, and some of the smaller characters, not some of the big ones. And then I think it would be interesting to have some of the bigger characters pop up in other movies, the way that Marvel does,
Yeah, like I would think
and then
having
have them like work their way back to X-Men later
right, like
on.
I think having Wolverine show up in a different movie as like, his X Factor days where he's kind of in Black
Yeah.
Ops after he's already had his claws, where he's still kind of doing Shadow Ops, or even have like a Wolverine versus Incredible Hulk movie. Like maybe Hulk goes a little bit more because we see that Mark Ruffalo at the end of Shang-Chi is back to being human form. So maybe the Hulk reverts back to the more savage form and goes on a rampage across the country, and Wolverine goes to hunt him down like the comic order.
Yeah.
I think that could be interesting, but like have them slowly work in and have different factions of the X-Men teams.
Yeah, totally. And even to the point where Wolverine's like, hasn't heard of X-Men, and someone tells him about it, and he's like, fuck that. I have no
Yeah.
interest.
I would really like, a lot of people are throwing Scott Eastwood out for him for I don't like
No,
Scott
thank
Eastwood.
you.
Um
For
I
Wolverine?
actually, for Wolverine,
Fuck
a lot
off.
of people jokingly say Danny DeVito. A lot of people say Daniel Radcliffe. The problem is a lot of people are going, we're just going to go for short,
Yeah.
but Wolverine's also like fucking ripped. So I think like Taron Egerton, somebody like him, he's not super tall, but he's in good shape. He's a good actor. He's got the
Do you,
action chops, the acting chops. I
do you think
he'd be
that's a
good.
role that they look at somebody who's maybe less known?
Maybe. Or the other person, the less known, this is the route. I know you haven't got around to Letterkenny yet, but the lead from
Mhm.
Letterkenny, Jared Kiso, he's
Mhm.
Canadian. He can do the action stuff. He's not super tall. He's like 5'8", 5 or something
He's
like
like
that.
he's like the lumberjacky looking guy, right? He's been
Yeah,
in the
yeah, with the
commercials.
short
Yeah,
hair.
I know what he looks like.
How he can grow a beard. He's had a beard and other
He
things.
seems tall to me. Is he not tall?
He's tall, but he's not like 6 feet. Like he's not Hugh Jackman tall. Like he's kind of average height. I think he's like 5'9" or 5'10". So he's not huge.
Gotcha.
But I also like you're not gonna find a 5'3" actor who also is 250 pounds and can
Right.
bench press a car.
Well, listen, we got a few years, I'm happy to put on a little bit of muscle and get into it.
There you go. You got the
Yeah.
beard. You can get the chops going.
I'm saying.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean that's what we would like to see is kind of a smaller team build up over movies and how eventually you can get X Factor and you can get Excalibur and start having mutant things around. But yeah, I don't want to see the entire team crammed into one movie.
Yeah, agreed.
All
Should
right.
we move on to Blade?
Yeah, Blade. Blade is the one that I'm super interested in because I think it can definitely be weird, but I'm wondering what route they're going to go because the Blade movies changed how Blade was in the comic books.
Yeah, I think that Blade is, out of these three movies, is the one that's going to exist the most outside of the main MCU story. And I know he's tied into Black Knight, but I think that's kind of going to be it. I think he's going to be on the fringes for a little bit.
And I think you got to think of some of the other things. So Blade originally in the comic books was just a human who was immune to vampire bites and vampire hypnotism. And he just learned how to fight them. He didn't have the powers. It wasn't until the Spider-Man cartoon in the 90s that they made him half vampire, half human, and then the movies ran with that and took it up to 11.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to get that because that's been adopted in the comic books now. So I think we're going to get the half human, half vampire. Has, the Daywalker, has vampire powers. Great casting with Mahershala Ali. I think that's fantastic.
Mahershala.
Yeah, I think he's going to be fantastic. I think he's going to be
agreed.
great.
He's never not fantastic.
Exactly.
Except
one
in
of his
this movie
other
when he's
powers-
not going to be Fantastic Four.
Yeah, one of his powers is that he can also detect supernatural creatures, and we have a Marvel series coming out. I'm not sure if it's this year. I know it's filming this year. It might come out next year, but called Werewolf by Night. So I'm wondering if that's going to tie in and how, the supernatural thing. They've already started teeing it up in Loki. They mentioned vampires, and they say like a vampire, and I can't remember the other three, but they named like three beings as some of the most powerful beings, and vampires was one of them. So that makes me think that they're actually ramping up Blade's powers. Like he's going to be like a force to contend with in the MCU.
Yeah, I feel like maybe he's going to be, Blade the character's Blade as a franchise is sort of going to be the leader of this little fiefdom of like magical lore based MCU stuff. Does that make sense?
And I think it's going to be more like, the things that do hide in the shadows, like werewolves and vampires exist, but they'd be persecuted. Like the things that we get in like Harry Potter with the Muggles, like wizards would be persecuted if they really existed. Same
and I
thing
feel
with
like
Underworld.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the main Avengers is going to sort of wink at it and be like, "Oh, we got vampires now. I didn't know that those existed." And Thor will be like, "Yeah, what are you talking about? Nobody, you guys don't know about vampires?"
I think that's exactly right, and I think so. Blade, out of these
and
three,
then,
Blade,
and then War Machine will be like, "I don't have time to think about this."
Yeah, Blade is like of the three, the one that I'm the least familiar with. Like I've seen the 3 Blade movies.
Yeah, same.
I haven't seen them since high school when Blade Trinity came out. I know you watched them like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I rewatched them. I don't think I
haven't watched
Trinity
them since Blade Trinity came out. I watched the first 2 right before that one came out, and that was in
first 2 hold up.
Yeah, I remember them being really good. They're in my Hulu queue. I just haven't got around to rewatching them because I was waiting for this movie to come out because I wasn't sure when it's going to come out. It's next year, so 2023.
Well, here's my next question. Do you think Wesley Snipes is going to do a cameo?
So he has talked about openly that he's had meetings with Marvel, that he would be open to doing it. I think he
wanted to be Blade.
I think he wanted to do it again. I don't think most like big studios are willing to work with him again just yet because he's like a insurance liability because he's
also they're not going to build a franchise on this guy. He's 60 whatever.
Yeah. And he's like very like he's had production shut down because he's weird. Like the Blade 3, he's barely in it. Like unless you actually see his face, it's not him. Wow. Like he's notoriously not easy to work with.
So cameo. He's not going to take over the Whistler position.
I think he's going to be in the Multiverse of Madness.
Oh no, I meant a cameo in Blade, but
maybe. Yeah. I think he's going to show up as Blade in Multiverse of Madness, and that'll also be kind of a wink and a nod that like maybe Doctor Strange goes like, "Oh, I'm going to have to see if there's vampires in our world or something like that."
Well, that's an interesting idea, and that kind of leads me into my next question. I realize again, researching these movies, that Blade doesn't come out for so long, but he, reached out to
Kit Harington.
I was trying to think of his Game of Thrones name.
Jon Snow.
The cousin fucker, the aunt fucker. He reached out to Jon Snow in the Eternals, just last year.
It's just his voice.
So I feel like there's got to be a Blade, a Mahershala Ali cameo in another one of these movies before his actual movie comes out.
Something's going to come up. So this year we have...
I have them all written down. You want me to tell you?
Yeah, so we've got Multiverse of Madness coming up in March, right?
Yeah, and Moon Knight is March 30th. Doctor Strange, I think, is actually May now, unless I have outdated.
No, that might be right. I think you're right.
Okay. Thor is July 8th. Black Panther is November. I'm just going to say the month because the days might be wrong now. Marvel's is next year in
January, February.
February, yeah. Directed by Nia DaCosta, by the way. We reviewed her Candyman. Very cool. Guardians Volume 3 is May. Ant-Man versus the Wasp is July. And I think that's sort of generally recognized as Phase 4. And then Fantastic Four is potentially the end of that.
I think we're gonna get casting for Fantastic Four in the next month or two, or in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And just this is off topic, but just as I'm talking about this, I think Ant-Man and the Wasp is going to be the Avengers level event that caps off Phase 4, and then I think Fantastic Four is going to take the Ant-Man spot for the last couple phases, where it's just sort of the palate cleanser.
I agree because
and the setup for the next one.
We know that Ant-Man 3, which is going to start filming pretty soon. I think it just started.
I just saw a guy at Veggie Grill wearing a crew jacket from Quantumania.
Excellent. Yeah, so I know that's going on. No, that's definitely filming because Paul Rudd has mentioned Kang and everything, and working with why can't I think of the actor's name?
Jonathan
right now?
Majors.
Thank God, he's so good, Jonathan Majors.
He's fantastic.
I'm so glad that he's Kang. I'm really looking forward to his portrayal. But we know Kang is in Ant-Man 3. We know it's Quantumania, and I guess this is a good segment into Fantastic Four. It's going to be a pretty short episode. It's all speculation. I think, and this is going to go, you mentioned, their origin is tied to getting hit with cosmic radiation as well. This is a popular theory. I like this theory a lot, that they were kind of like Tony Stark in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, kind of like really famous scientists, and they were going on this mission, just like, back in the NASA days, we all knew who the astronauts were, and we all looked up to the astronauts going to space. So a lot of people think that these were going to be, astronauts going into space in the 60s. They go through some dimensional rift and end up in the quantum realm for 40,
Oh,
50
you
years.
think they come from the 60s?
That's a very popular opinion.
I like that.
I like that a lot, and that they're
That's really interesting because it melds Captain America and Tony Stark a little bit too.
Exactly. Well, and like they're
scientists, but are also men out of time.
But they're also always been called the Marvel's most famous family. Like in the comic books, they've always been celebrities. People have always known who they were. They have the backstory building, and it would be
right.
It would
and
be
in
a way
60
that makes
years,
sense.
their star has just kind of faded.
Well, and just because they're gone, like they disappeared,
Right,
so them coming back, they would be instantly famous again. And here they come. They come back. Not only are they back after 40 years, they're back in the same age. Like they're, they went in, and I want to see one of the things that we haven't really gotten in any of the versions that we've had, the two on screen. I want to see a younger Johnny Storm compared to the rest of them. Like he's supposed to be Sue's younger brother by a large margin. So I want to see
like early 20s, maybe.
Early to mid 20s, Johnny Storm. I want to see mid to late 30s, Reed Richards, Sue Storm, and Ben Grimm. That's what I would like to see.
I'm into that. Hey, I have a quick sidebar question then.
Yeah.
So I like this setup. Let's assume that that's what's happening. Somebody has bought Tony Stark's building, and I think a lot of people think that it's going to be the Baxter building, that it's Fantastic Four. But what if it's Doctor Doom in that case?
Yeah, a lot of people thought it was going to be Osborn, and then that
I think that ship has sailed a little bit.
But Doctor Doom could be interesting. I want to see. Same thing, Ford. God, I would have loved to have Mads Mikkelsen as Doctor Doom, but he's already been in the MCU as in Doctor Strange.
What about Viggo Mortensen?
He would be good too. It's just a matter of how old they want to go, because he's up there. Like, he's in his 60s now.
Yeah,
and
I like
he's
to see
supposed
somebody
to be a contemporary of Reed Richards.
Right.
So you gotta, a lot of people. The
but what if
Nikolaj guy from Game of Thrones?
What if Doctor Doom was a contemporary in the 60s? And he's like fucked with himself already so much and kind of preserved his life, so he's like 100 years old.
That'd be cool too, because he's supposed to be, and he would be a good thing to pop up as an Easter egg or a post credit thing in Doctor Strange, because Doctor Doom, another thing that we haven't gotten, the original one from 2004, he's just a mogul who happens to go up with him, and he gets electricity and metal powers. And then the really shitty one from like 2015,
Fan Four Stick.
Yeah, Fan Four Stick. He is a computer hacker and computer scientist who lived in the dimension for like a year.
Yeah.
And he's fucked up. But Doctor Doom is supposed to be the merger of Doctor Strange and Tony Stark, where he is a brilliant technological scientist as well as a mystic, and he melds those worlds. So I think Doctor Strange would be a good place for him to pop up. But I actually like that. Between the like we saw in a Doctor Strange, Benjamin Pratt's character, who was like paralyzed, used the magic just to fix his body so he can play basketball again.
Yeah, and if you're
Dr.
using
Strange with his hands.
Right, if you're using like dark magic from the dark dimension to preserve your life, that could, fuck up your face and your body and stuff.
And plus, have him be like a cyborg too, like a combination of technology, maybe Chitauri technology, and magic makes him still around, 40 years later.
Yeah, I like that.
So that's interesting. Casting wise, I think we have to acknowledge it. Everybody's been calling for John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. I like that casting. I don't know if we're going to get it because of how popular. Although
I've heard some interviews. I think with that, I think they've commented on it a little bit too, and I think he's forgive me if you've heard this already. I think Krasinski is going to pop up in Doctor Strange as another universe, multiverse version of Reed Richards. I'm like losing my perspicacity. What's going on here? I'm sorry. But I think they're going to be sort of a what if thing, but they're not going to be the
Yeah,
main
Emily
ones.
Blunt has explicitly said she doesn't want to do a superhero movie, but a lot of the people say that before they go and do these movies. Like,
Yeah, I think Krasinski has sort of said
he said
that
he's game
he.
for it.
Yeah, but I think he's also said that he doesn't want to be tied down to something for 10 years or whatever. Like he
Yeah.
wants to do it. He just like would prefer to be able to direct other movies. So that's why I think that popping up in Doctor Strange or What If, and maybe coming up a couple times as a multiversal version of Reed Richards makes more sense for him.
That could be cool. One of the things that's nice built in, like I mentioned, them being celebrities, and so Spider-Man is the neighbor. He saves the city. He's done a little bit more in the movies. But one of the things that pops up in the comic books a lot is Spider-Man swings over to the Baxter building and like, I'm going to ask the Fantastic Four for help. And they're like, their butler answers the door and like, oh yeah, they're on like an interdimensional thing. Like they are interdimensional heroes. So it'd be really easy for them to write off, like if John Krasinski wanted to do it, and so say, oh, they're off doing that, and they don't have to put every adventure in a movie. Because Kevin Feige has said that they are no longer doing the 6-picture, 9-picture, 10-picture movie deals anymore. That they want to just get the talent who wants to be there, and they'll say, hey, we've got this idea. If you have the time, do you want to do another appearance? And they negotiate it on a movie-by-movie basis. So possibly that's an option. I other than that, like I if it's not Krasinski, I would love to see Timothy Olyphant as Reed Richards.
Oh, that's interesting. I like Timothy Oliphant a lot, but I don't know if I buy him as Reed Richards. He's a little bit too cocky and sexy.
So he is too sexy. I'll give you that. Reed Richards is supposed to be cocky. Reed Richards is an arrogant asshole.
I think there's another word that I'm looking for, but point taken.
Yeah.
Somebody suggested Brandon Routh, and I really liked that.
I don't think he's that good of an actor. I think look-wise he can pull it off. I
I
feel
like that's not my like. I don't want to die on that hill, but I want to see it. Like if I could jump to another dimension where that happened, I'd like to check that out.
I think visually he could pull it off. I think Timothy Olyphant, he's a little older. That would mean you have to bump up the age of Sue Storm or whatnot. I think Alice Eve is a name that a lot of people have thrown out for her. Yeah. Ben Grimm is the easiest because it doesn't matter. He's the Rock.
It's got to be another WWE guy, right?
Well, no, because it's just going to be CG. They CGI Hulk, and they have a motion.
I'm just joking because they had such good luck with what's his face,
Batista. Like Tyler Mane as Sabretooth in the original stuff.
Yeah, not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What about Samara Weaving for Sue Storm?
It depends on how young they go, because I feel like she's a little young. Like she still reads like 20s. She's still like everybody she's playing is 20.
Sure.
But I like her. She's a good actress.
Yeah. What about I don't remember. Did you watch Succession?
No, but
the guy that plays Tom would be good.
Who?
The guy that plays Tom. I forget his name.
Let's look him up.
Yeah, look him up.
Succession.
While you're looking that up, Silver Surfer, my 2 votes are either Jim Rash or Keanu Reeves.
Jim Rash. No, Keanu Reeves would be good for that, and that would be something.
Keanu Reeves is my backup. I want Jim Rash.
Which character did you say?
As Silver Surfer?
No, as
Tom from Succession.
Yeah, he'd be good.
And that guy is like a fantastic fucking actor too.
He's
got range out of his ass.
I could read. Yeah, nah.
Does he read his read?
That at all.
He's maybe a little bit older, but I mean than what we were talking about.
I've seen him in other things, like he's in that really shitty Three Musketeers movie. He was really good in Pride and Prejudice.
Mm-hmm. What's his name again? I'm sorry.
Matthew McFadden.
Yeah, that's right.
No, he's a solid actor in the things that I've seen him in.
Yeah,
I would not be against that. I think that's a good dark horse contender. He's 1974. He's not that old.
Yeah. I think we were just talking about like slightly older, or slightly younger Reed Richards.
I like that, honestly. I don't.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Nice dark horse contender, man.
My other dark horse one that I saw somebody mention was Dev Patel.
Yeah, I've seen that one. A lot of people are throwing him out, and I think he's good. Like he can play a really smart dude. I think he would nail it. I just think once he reads a little young. I want Reed Richards to be a little older, because what I want to see happen, and I think will ultimately happen, is we'll eventually get the Illuminati, which is Charles Xavier, Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, and Thunderbolt, and other people, come in and out. But I want to get to a point where, like, Tony Stark was kind of doing this with the Ultron thing, but get, these people who are the most brilliant people in the MCU thinking that they can shadow puppet the world and run it. And I want somebody, I just
That
don't
feels
see
like
a young Dev Patel style Reed Richards getting that much clout and being held seriously by them.
This is a little bit less about Fantastic Four, but since you brought up Illuminati, I feel like the Illuminati is ripe for like an Avengers 2 Ultron placement in the next, three phases. I think it sits right in the middle, and it's the heroes banding together and kind of doing something not super cool and having to deal with the consequences
and
of
it could be a really good way to lead into Civil War 2 if they want to do another Civil War 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Do you want to talk about Doctor Doom and Kang and big bads in
so
the next
I
phases?
think we're going to get, obviously we're going to get Doctor Doom at some point if we're getting Fantastic Four. And Doctor Doom is a great Avengers level threat that also isn't galaxy ending kind of thing. I think ultimately we're going to go to Galactus. And that was another thing I wanted to bring up. But
that's interesting.
Galactus, I think what they're going to do is one of two things.
Well, hold on. Do you think we're talking about there's a big bad for each phase, and then there's an overarching villain?
Yeah. So I think Galactus will be the next big Thanos level threat.
You don't think it's going to be Kang?
I think it. So what I think is going to happen, I think this will be interesting, and this was one of the things I kind of predicted, and I was absolutely wrong for Endgame. I thought that based off, Thanos doing his thing, that the Celestials were going to come, or Galactus was going to come, or something, and Thanos would end up actually helping the Avengers defeat that. I thought there was a small chance that might happen.
Yeah, you were not right.
I think this time around, what we might get happen, Doctor Doom's big thing is he's actually trying to get his mother out of hell, who committed like suicide. That's like his big overarching thing that he's trying to do, and then also like throw dirt in Reed Richards' eye because he blames him for getting scarred. But I think what will happen is I think the main reason that the Eternals and brought the Celestials in was to, one, pay it off because we kind of saw them in Guardians of the Galaxy. But I think they'll either go, Galactus is a rogue Celestial, even though he's not. In the comic books, he's not a Celestial. He's more powerful than any one Celestial, but he's not as powerful as all of them. Like, he couldn't take on all the Celestials by himself. So I either think they're going to make him a rogue Celestial, who is the reverse. Instead of like destroying a planet to be born, he destroys planets to eat and survive. So I either think he's going to be a rogue Celestial, and I think maybe we might get Doctor Doom, Kang, even though their bad guys are actually going to be a couple different things. I think they're going to come together with the heroes and help dispel Galactus. And then I think that's eventually going to lead into Secret Wars and have like the interdimensional thing where we get everybody back. We might get Robert Downey Jr. back, and we'll get all these people, and they'll do like the good versus evil battle of all time and get everybody back. But I think we might see Kang and Doctor Doom partner with the Avengers to stop Galactus.
And that's your end game event.
I think that's the end game moment.
Do you think that's do you think Secret Wars is part of that last phase?
I think it'll lead into that. I think we're going to get Galactus and then directly go into Secret Wars.
Oh, so you think Secret Wars is going to be after we're in phase 4 right now? It's going to be phase 6 or something.
Yeah,
phase 7.
I think we're going to get that. I think we're going to build up to that.
I think it's coming sooner than that.
I think that's what all the multiverse stuff, and I think that what all these big events are going to be. And I think setting up villains that are as powerful as the heroes, because realistically, we haven't had. I mean, Ultron was powerful, but we really haven't had a true villain that was as powerful as the Avengers. Like, not really. So I want to see like I want to start establishing these long-term villains, because that's the one thing that Marvel has not done. They keep killing off all the villains, other than Loki, but then they just keep bringing him back for various ways. But I want to start seeing. That's one of the things that actually really excites me about Matt Reeves' Batman is he's mentioned like the Batman will have the no-kill rule. All the characters that we see, the Riddler, Penguin, Catwoman, are going to be in multiple films, and we're actually going to see Batman's like rogue gallery expand and interact with each other and like Arkham and whatnot. That's not something we're getting in the MCU, and we're starting to get, like, they brought back Abomination. So I would like to see, we actually get villains who stay for multiple movies. We're getting Kingpin back. I think we're just starting to get to that stage where Marvel recognizes the villains are just as bankable as the heroes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Doctor Doom is probably. I want to see Doctor Doom not be the main villain of the Fantastic Four movie. I want to see him exist in the MCU doing his own thing for a little bit and have a Fantastic Four movie happen and have them, run parallel to each other, and then have Doctor Doom, have it all come to a head in like the end of Phase 5.
That's one of the things I really thought.
I think that might be like Battle World or something.
I really thought we were going to get our own version. The only thing I didn't like about I think we're far enough out from Spider-Man, far from or No Way Home, that we can give the spoiler warning and spoil it. So spoiler warning. The only thing that disappoints me about that movie was, we got Sandman and Lizard and Dr. Otto Octavius and Norman Osborn, and I think because we got these characters, I don't think we're going to get our own MCU versions of these characters, which disappoints me because these are some really, really great characters. And it also just makes it weird. Like, if Norman Osborn all of a sudden showed up in the MCU, Tom Holland's Spider-Man is going to be like, I'm going to keep an eye out on this guy. Right. All these actors.
I think Tom Holland is doing another trilogy, so
I think so.
I feel like anything's on the table.
I think
they're going to focus. I think they're going to focus more on the Venom stuff and the Black Suit.
I think so.
And I think that's going to lead into Secret Wars, and I think that's why we're getting Secret Wars earlier than the end of everything. But
we'll see.
Yeah.
But that disappoints me. But one of my things that I always wanted is I really wanted like an Oscar Isaac, Bryan Cranston, Matthew McConaughey kind of guy. One of those three were kind of my three dream castings for Norman Osborn, and have them show up as Norman Osborn in one movie. And then at the end of, the first movie, we find out that he's kind of shady. Like, he has a meeting with the Kingpin at the end of the first movie that he's in, but we don't see him. And then the second movie, we start seeing him do like some shady shit, like even more so, and start experimenting. And then the third movie, we actually get him as the Green Goblin. Like, I would have liked that. And I want to start seeing these arcs in the movies.
I feel like they've got to do something with Norman Osborn, proper.
I just don't know, especially with bringing Willem Dafoe back and how fucking.
Well, no, I don't think it's Willem Dafoe. I think that they cast somebody younger, and it's like a Doctor Doom, like it's a guy that exists in the background for 6-7 movies.
That's what I would love. I just don't know because Willem Dafoe crushed it so fucking hard. Yeah. I don't know if anybody's going to want to bring that back. That's the one thing, like, both, a lot of people
I feel like it's such a significant character, though.
Right. But, like, I was getting in arguments with people on, like, this forum the other day. People were complaining that we were seeing the Riddler and Penguin again. They're like, why do we only see the same 4 Batman villains? And I had to be like, we haven't seen the Penguin in 30 years.
Yeah.
In a movie. And
he was just in Gotham, but yeah.
Right. But, like, most people didn't watch that show. Nope. Like, that was a very fringe show. It lasted, like, it barely survived.
Fringe is a good show.
Season. The first season was solid.
Fringe was a good show.
Oh, Fringe was good. Yeah, Fringe was good. But the Riddler we haven't seen since '95.
Yeah, and it's like it's Jim Carrey. It's so different.
It's so different. So it's like that's one. But like the Joker, we've had a million versions of the Joker. Right. We had Jared Leto, we had Heath Ledger, we had Jack Nicholson. Like that one, I kind of get, but I also like. They are iconic, and I get why DC keeps using some of the same characters. Yeah. And I wish Marvel would do that. Marvel hasn't really reused any of the characters from. Now, granted, it's really just been Spider-Man, and I guess that's it.
Well, to your point, though, I think that they need to do something with Norman, and I think it's definitely not going to be the next Spider-Man movie, and that's not going to be for 3 years at least. Or probably 3 years, actually.
Yeah, probably 3 years.
I think about 3. So I don't think it'll be that one, but I think in 6 years we should see another Norman. And also, like, Peter's going to be either in college or working, as a photographer in the next the next phase, right? Like they're going back to sort of classic Spider-Man.
They're
so I think that's
the status quo.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good time for him to like meet his best friend Harry.
Yeah, I hope they go that route, and
especially because he doesn't have Ned anymore.
Yeah. So I hope they go that route. I hope we get the Gwen Stacy and everything. I hope we really get a rebooted Spider-Man universe. But I think this episode was very speculative. very short, kind of all over the place, but that's fine. Like we like to do these topic episodes every once in a while and kind of discuss other things we've done. Die Hard is, how Die Hard changed the industry, and we did a couple of Die Hard knockoff movies. We did movies that shouldn't be remade, but here are our pitches. We've done movies that should be remade. We've done a bunch of these kind of things. We do these every month and a half, 2 months or so. And they're fun to do, so I don't mind that this episode was a little rambly and a little speculative and a little loosey-goosey with the structure. This is still an episode on our main feed, so I gotta ask, what have you been up to, bud?
Oh, man, so I was, not prepared. Well, I have an answer right off the bat. I have to open my Letterbox. Hey, Letterbox, endorse us. Actually, don't endorse us because I didn't need you this week. I've been watching fucking Yellow Jackets, bro.
That's on my list. That's on
it's
HBO
so
Max, right?
goddamn good. No, it's on Showtime.
Showtime. Yeah, I want to see that. That's on my list. It looks
we
really
binged
good.
the shit out of that, and I watched Palm Springs finally a week ago or so ago.
God, that's been on my list too.
It's so good. Really enjoyed it.
Good. Is that all you watched?
I think I'm forgetting something, but yeah, basically.
All right. Well, I'll some of these I actually watched before, but we had that weird issue where we had to double record West Side Story, so our lists were really long, so I shaved some of them. But it came to my attention that my wife Katrina has not seen Wizard of Oz, so we rectified that. We watched Wizard of Oz. We were just bored one night and randomly picked a movie on HBO, and we watched Miss Congeniality. Fun, very problematic. It's a 2000 comedy. Yeah, kind of makes sense.
Sandy.
Ozark season 4 came out, so we watched the first part. That's got part 1 and part 2 both out this year. We watched Tick Tick Boom. Very good.
Oh yeah, I want to see that.
It's
awesome.
Very good. I understand why everyone's giving,
that Andrew Garfield kid needs more work.
He's so good in it. Like what I like about him, and this is one of the things I loved about his Spider-Man thing. Like I think did just as more emotion as Spider-Man without the the zoomy eyes that Tom Holland has because of his physicality. He was very good with these big elaborate motions and these weird little spider twitchies when he's in the spider mode. Same thing.
He's a very sexy man. I mean,
he's very physical. His performances are all very physical and they're just so real. And he gets really good micro expressions. He's just fantastic and underrated. And I hope he gets his Oscar for this one. Katrina, I had never seen Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood, and Katrina's like, you have to watch that. And I'm like, if I have to watch that, which I'm happy to do, I was going to watch it anyway. Totally happy to watch movies that she wants me to watch. But I was like, you need to watch, she watched Total Recall when we covered Total Recall in the last episode. And I'm like, you need to watch either The Running Man or, what was the other one that I told her she had to watch?
Commando.
No.
Predator.
No.
Last Action Hero.
Or RoboCop. Paul Verhoeven film. So I'm like, you either need to watch The Running Man or RoboCop. And she picks The Running Man. I'm like, you fool. RoboCop's the better movie. The Running Man is fun, but we watched The Running Man and Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood. And I started, I finished my rewatch of Modern Family. So I was looking for my new half-hour thing that I just watched to kill time when, doing the dishes or whatever.
King of the Hill for us right now.
So I started, I can't remember the actual name, but it's the Bo Burnham show, Josh Stone gets famous or...
Oh, dude, Zach Stone.
We
watched that a couple weeks ago. It's so good.
I watched 4 episodes. There's only 12. I watched 4, and every episode is exactly the same. So I stopped watching it.
I mean, every episode's hilarious. If that's what you mean, then yes.
Literally every episode is the same jokes back to back to back to back to back. It is... Every episode's almost identical. If you watch one episode, you've seen them all. I
really enjoyed that show, and I totally endorse people going out and watching it.
I like Bo Burnham, but that show got old for me very fast.
Not me. Everybody should go out and watch it. Report back to us.
I started watching New Girl, and that show's
nice.
Pretty good.
We
watched the first season when it came out. It was the only year that I paid for cable. Was the year that came out. And we watched the first season, so I'm going back and it's solid. But,
I've been listening to the Rick Glassman podcast, Take Your Shoes Off, a lot recently, and Lamorne Morris, who's in New Girl, is on there all the time.
Winston.
Yeah, Winston. Master of pranks.
But I think that's everything. And I've been playing the hell out of Halo Infinite. I'm actually good at the multiplayer now. It's the first multiplayer game that I've been good at since Gears of War 3.
Nice. I jacked into some PUBG and Call of Duty Warzone Pacific
Nice.
last week, and I'm still garbage at both those games.
Nice.
Happy
On
to play
PS4?
anybody if they want to join in. Yeah, PS4.
I'll maybe play.
But
with you.
they're
jump on.
they're cross platform, so it doesn't even matter.
Maybe I'll jump on PUBG with you. It's been a long time since I used to play that on my phone.
Nice. Yeah, I would totally do that.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. Maybe if you're good.
I bet I'm better than you.
No, I meant not good at the game. Like if you behave yourself.
Oh, I don't like where that's going.
All right, man. Let's wrap this bitch up. You tell us where your plugs are.
Yeah, baby. I'm on TikTok at Palishi, Pulisci. I'm on Twitter at Palishi. I'm on Letterboxd at Palishi, and I'm on Instagram at Dyslexic because they will not give me the Palishi tag.
Yeah, you guys can check out everything that is MDXpods related at MDXpods.com. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at MDXpods. We are also on YouTube, as Alex just mentioned. We don't have quite enough followers on there to get our personalized name, so follow us on YouTube, subscribe. We're not that far off, and then it'll be really easy to find, but you can just type in Remake, Rewind, MDXpods, whatever, you'll find us. And then if you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/MDXpods, throw in $1, whatever, and you get early access to all these episodes. You get bonus content, and we need to come up with another bonus episode pretty soon.
Another
I don't think we did
bonus
one in
episode.
January. Did we do one in
Yeah.
January?
I
Oh,
don't
the Spider-Man one came out. No, that was supposed to be Patreon. Then we really did it as a regular episode. We need to do a bonus episode. Shit.
Send us your ideas.
Send us ideas on all that stuff. We're rambling like this whole episode. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.